Welcome, everybody, to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
It's my goal to feed 1 billion people before I die.
We want to bring awareness around the issue of hunger and food insecurity.
7 to 8 million people served so far. With the sole goal of eradicating world hunger by connecting sources of food to recipients in need. Fiorenza's Food for Friends.
Hi, everyone. This is Derek Fiorenza on the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. And yes, we are talking chili cook-off and other things. Today, we have a very special guest. It's Scott Zukin of Zukin Realty, and he is joining us on the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. We're going to ask Scott a lot of questions about Zukin Realty, how they got started, their role in the community, why philanthropy is important, what they're excited about with the cook-off coming up, and the work that they do. But before we get into that, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Well, we're really excited to have you. You've been a supporter for many years. We took over the event last year, F4 did, and our goal was for the Chili Cook-Off to reimagine it. It's now an event dedicated to creating awareness for hunger and food insecurity. So our goal is to help as many people as we possibly can, both with feeding and with awareness creation. So thank you for being such a generous donor and supporter of the work we're doing.
Yeah, and Derek, I don't know if many people do this, but thank you for taking over the chili cook-off. When Rotary stopped working with it a few years ago, we were really disappointed, and but we understand they were running through some issues with keeping it going. We're so happy that you guys took it over because it's such an important event for the community, and then the purpose you have behind it is awesome.
Well, we appreciate you saying that. And the Rotary did a great job for years. As you said,
Yes,
sometimes things get challenging, and obviously, 20 some years of doing something, it's a long runway they had. And they always had a goal of helping the community. So that's the most important thing is giving back and serving the community.
yes.
So, Scott, tell me a little bit about your background. You're in the real estate world, but tell me about growing up and your history.
Yeah, I was born in Philadelphia, but moved here very young. It was like 1967, I think. My father and his twin brother, Stan and Ron Zukin, bought one of the smallest pharmacies in Westchester at the time. It was on Market Street. It was Thatcher's Pharmacy. Thatcher's Pharmacy then moved onto Gay Street, which is now the location of the new Hotel Indigo. So it was kind of a full circle event when that all happened. It was amazing. So they were the smallest drugstore, ended up becoming the biggest drugstore. Then in the 80s, I think it was 1981. I might be off a little bit. No, I'm sorry. It was 1989 that they sold the business to Rite Aid. And essentially, my dad retired and then did real estate full time. At that time, I was in Philadelphia. I was a cabinet maker. That was always a love of mine. We were raised in a Victorian home around antiques, and I just loved fixing them. Some early memories of that were just working in the basement fixing furniture with my
Mhm.
dad. So I ended up in Philadelphia. Ended up buying out a guy that I worked for. It was the first business I owned, and had that for 10, 15 years, and left it because, again, my father, who's a very persistent person, um, just kept encouraging me pretty much on a daily basis, like, come to Westchester. And I was like, no thanks, Westchester's pretty dead. And at that time, uh, early 90s, late 90s, sorry, uh, Westchester had a lot of vacant property. So when he started in real estate in the 80s, it was 60% vacant. So just imagine, like, when you see Westchester, I think there were two liquor licenses
Hmm.
in town. Um, it was pretty dead. In the 60s, it was, I'm told, I mean, I don't remember this, but I'm told it was a very, very lively town. And it just died out in the 70s with the malls happening and all that kind of stuff. So he saw an opportunity and just bought up a lot of property in Westchester. And that brought me to come back because he just convinced me to come. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I'll come and work with you, but I'm going to give it a year. And if we don't like it and we don't get along, then I go my way, you go your way. And I walked away from the cabinet making business, which was a tough one, and started working. And basically 2 years went by, and the two of us looked at each other and said, "I guess it's working." So, and obviously it was. And we just bought, fixed up with my skills in cabinet making. We were able to do a lot of the historic renovations that we've done through town. I used to swing a hammer. I used to build some of the facades that we've repaired and design them, and work with the different apartments. And one of the things we pride ourselves with our apartments is that they're always a little unique. Like, we'll expose the brick wall or the beams, and we'll do that not necessarily getting more money, but it makes it a little more exciting to live in that place rather than just a vanilla box that a lot of new construction stuff has. So it keeps the character of Westchester.
It's so
So
hard to imagine Westchester not being as densely populated as it is now. Two liquor licenses, like you mentioned, and now how many restaurants and bars they have. It's unbelievable.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I think would be good, and we're working on this very diligently, is to get more retail into town.
Mm.
There's a saturation, obviously, of restaurants, and that happens even in New York City. You're going to see it. The retail market is tough, and people need, Amazon's great, but people need to realize that you buy local. It really does help your community, and it does help your town. And additionally, one of the great things that we do is, for commercial, we really try to rent to mom and pop businesses. So most of our businesses that we rent to, you'll see the proprietor there working the business. And, they don't just hire someone who doesn't really care about, whatever they're selling or whatever they're cooking. They're people that are there and very vested into it.
So let's talk about Zukin specifically
Hmm.
and how it came into creation and the work you're doing now. How has it evolved and what's the future of Zukin?
Yeah. So, well, it really started with buying small. Oh, I just lost you.
No, I'm pulling up
Oh, okay.
the
Sorry.
web page. You're good. Keep
Yes,
going.
yes. Okay, sorry about that.
That's right.
Um, so we started out buying small properties that some were commercial, some were simply houses, and renovating them and bringing them up. Bringing a business in. It was often a restaurant. It was sometimes retail. It was sometimes office buildings, things like that. And there's a picture of my dad coming up there, and that's great. Um, and we just slowly would build from there. And I sometimes coach people on this, that you just start with your first piece of property, and people thought we were crazy buying buildings, and the prices that we paid were very low in today's standards. But at the time, they were like, "How are you going to pay your bill? This isn't going to work." Interest rates right now are still lower than what we were paying when we first bought buildings. So you need to be resilient, you need to be flexible, and you just try a lot of things. You be creative, and you have to be careful as well. You have to be smart about your investments and that type of thing. So we would buy one building and then refinance it and then buy the next building, and got a reputation where people would just call us and say, "Hey, we're selling our building. We don't want to put it on market. It might be private." And then many of the buildings that we got were literally handshake deals. And it goes back to the pharmacy. So, I mean, I kind of learned to walk in the pharmacy. My dad worked. The pharmacy was 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 7 to 11. So sorry, 8 to 11. And we as a family worked in the pharmacy. So we really learned to serve the community. And we're Jewish. we all worked during Christmas, and that was a really special time for us. So that wherever anybody in the family was, including our grandparents, sometimes aunts and uncles were there. We went from, we would give the employees off, and the whole family would run the store. And every year we had at least one family that was coming in almost in tears, like, thank you for being opened. This is before the 24-hour pharmacies, before, you could get stuff online like that. Someone would be coming from the hospital and their kid was sick, and they're like, we need medicine for our kid. We couldn't get it. And I assume at that time they didn't have pharmacies in the hospital, or, they could have been visiting relatives or something like that. And that really drove home for all of us, all my brother and sister, who were also involved in the business very heavily. And we learned to serve the community, and we learned to really care about the community. But back to buying the real estate for a second, is that that community came to us, and they then were, boy, that's distracting. I'm sorry, just seeing the website in the background while I'm
Yeah, well,
talking.
just sharing it so that people that are
That's
following
okay.
on
I
YouTube can.
apologize.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no, that's
good.
fine. That's
Keep
fine.
going. It's
Yeah.
good because
So,
everybody that's watching on YouTube, they're gonna have
yeah.
access to these links, and we want
Uh-huh.
them to follow you and give you reviews so they can, obviously share the great work you're doing with your team.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so people from the community would come to us and say, hey, we're selling the property. And then we knew them and they trusted us. They trusted the family. And that's how we really began. And that's what built us. And always has been. I mean, we have in our logo, building community. That's really, really important to us.
It's amazing, and you really focused on that. So let's talk about some of your community engagement, and we'll be sure to share those links. We want people to give you good reviews online, and obviously follow your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook pages. But tell us a little bit about why giving back to the community is so important for you and your organization.
So it it is. I mean, look, you know what? I'll tell you a story. I don't tell a whole lot of people that when I was a cabinet maker, I did not make a lot of money, and I was struggling. And I saw the people that helped me out of my struggle truly were my family. And then I used to volunteer for some homeless organizations in Philadelphia when I lived there. And I saw that these people didn't have the family to help them. If I needed $100 to pay my rent or something like that, I could call my family and they would help me because I was working on a project. Maybe someone didn't pay me or something like that. And it was a tough business. I worked hard, but I didn't make money and I couldn't fix my car sometimes. So that made that could have failed my business, but I had that backing. So when I saw that a lot of people that are struggling with food insecurity, with housing insecurity, all of that, they didn't have their dad to call or their mom to call or their brother to say, "Hey, we'll help you out." That's fine. They're on their own. Some of their families have abandoned them for reasons they may not be alive. They may be poor themselves, and so that personally was was my story in this. That I felt like once I came back and to Westchester and started working in real estate, and I was like, we're providing housing, but we're not. And yes, we're trying to make money in the business, but part of that is serving the community. And still to this day, we always have a percentage of our apartments that are Section 8, that are people that I know that are struggling, that we're going to help out, that are not in a program. We serve a lot of vets, and provide housing for them. And these people, they don't have good credit. They don't have the money to pay. There's the ability, with some of the government programs that help them, and we're happy to. It's a risk. It takes a little bit of extra work.
Yeah.
Not everyone is a home run. There's a lot of times when it doesn't work out, but we we are very patient. All of my staff knows that they work hard to keep these people housed, and that's part of it. And so bringing it back, I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about food. That's, it's funny. It was just Yom Kippur,
Hmm.
and that's a day of fasting, a day of atonement. So you're really you're looking inside yourself, and you fast, and you do that so that you really are thinking of yourself, like in how to better yourself. What can I do better to become a better me, and the best I can show up for the world? And one of the great things that our synagogue does, it's Beth Chaim Reformed Synagogue in Malvern. They literally fill like a 12-foot U-Haul truck, top to bottom, with food,
Wow.
gift cards, money donations, and they take it to the food bank. And
Wow.
that's one of the things that is just it's a great event. And I basically give my kids the credit card, and I say, go and fill the back of the car and take it
Hmm.
to that truck. And I say, like, buy good stuff. Don't just buy candy, but we buy like a little bit of sweets, because you should have a good time too. It's not just eating, whatever, like, because it has to be non-perishable. So it's not just like cans of tuna fish and beans and stuff like that. You want a little bit of cake every once in a while, and so we get that as well. And diapers and things that really help people that are in need.
It's amazing. And have you always been personally concerned with the plight and struggle of others? Has that always been important? And if so, did that come from your parents?
It the My dad used to tell a story that his grandfather, who was his inspiration, so it would have been, I guess, my great grandfather, um, owned a big company in Philadelphia. It was called Apex Florist. And a lot of, at that time, the Jewish communities were very small, and they all were within them. They all knew each other. So he would tell that my grandfather would give a loan to someone, and often another person would come and need money, and sometimes that person he knew would not necessarily pay it back, but he would say to the person, well, the money that you're giving me to pay your loan off is going to such and such person, and that helps him with his loan. So it was almost like it was a circular thing within the community, that person wasn't going and paying my grandfather, who apparently was pretty wealthy, but it was going to pay the person that was also in need. So that those payments, like, it had a little more of a community and a purpose behind it. So maybe that was a lesson that I absorbed. I mean, they everybody's helping each other within the community. And I think that, it's, we're blessed. We have worked very hard for what we have. Um, but we've also seen, honestly, my grandmother uh, had food insecurity. So people come think, oh, Zukin, they they got money. Well, we've worked for it. I've experienced difficult times as well, as I shared, and I think that is what drives it. When you're successful, you always have to realize where you came from, and the people that helped you to become successful.
Yeah, they always say that you end up picking up more from your example than from what you're actually told and taught. So more is caught than taught when
Mm-hmm.
you're parenting. I don't have children yet, but I know that's true for me as a son growing up. Watching my parents, I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to help others. We used to serve in the soup kitchens when I was really young as a
Mm-hmm.
family, and you realize when you really open your eyes and your perspective that people will always be suffering, and you come back to what can I do to help get out of myself? Like you mentioned with Yom Kippur, you were fasting, turning inward. How can I bring the best version of myself to the world every day? And I think when you're taking care of other people, that's the best version of all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right, and it did. I'm proud to say, my son, Max, when he had a project he had to do, and he actually came up with this on his own at 12 years old. He's now 30, but he was like, Dad, I'm going to cook for people at Safe Harbor
Hmm.
because if they have food in their belly, they will feel a sense of home.
Yeah,
And I want to give them that. And I was like, dude, like,
that's
that's
beautiful.
awesome that you figured that out on your own. I didn't coach him on that at all.
It's
I just
beautiful.
sort of throw it like, hey, you have to do a project. So, community project. It could have been the SBCA. It could have been anything. And he chose that on his own. It was really great.
Yeah, and Safe Harbor's been a terrific organization. We've worked with them. So I think they just celebrated their 29th or 30th year in the borough. And we worked with them. I've been doing the food ministry since 2007. We
Hmm.
probably started working with them in 2011, 2010, 2011, in that time frame.
Okay.
They provide a lot of good support to the people in Chester County, specifically
Yeah.
Westchester, that
Yeah,
need
they
it.
do. They
But
do.
it's neat that your son just, following your example, got involved without you actually telling him to do it. He sees, hey, dad gives back, granddad gives back, I'm gonna give back.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you never know. I mean, in life, you never know where you end up and what happens. And, whatever, Westchester could, something horrible could happen. And I hope not ever because it's
Yeah.
such a great town. And then who knows what I'm going to need at that point or
Yeah.
what my family might need or, those types of things. We all have to be grateful for what we have and opportunities we have and share it, you know?
So I'm really curious to learn a little bit about your success. So you do you follow routines? Do you have a certain like way I have my coffee this time every day?
Um,
This time to this time I do this. Like how did you become
it's
the success
interesting.
that you are?
I used to follow a lot of different routines and it's helpful. I mean, I exercise, I stretch, and as you get older, you're going to notice that you have to stretch or it hurts. You wake up and it hurts and you just stretch. So that's your motivation because you don't want to hurt.
Yeah.
So consistent exercise, um, you know, consistent movement. I I read the New York Times pretty much every day. At least the headlines going through and articles that spark with that. I try to stay out of politics, and that
Yep.
probably keeps me from being too stressed out.
That's good.
um, I, uh, I don't know that I have a whole lot of specific
Yeah.
routines. I just I try to eat healthy. I try to you know have purpose with what I'm doing. I journal a lot. I spend a lot of time on gratitude. That's probably the most consistent thing that I do is waking up in the morning and you know even if it's a rainy day, it doesn't matter. It's a beautiful day. You're waking up. You have all the opportunity, and each day is a fresh day, and you take that and realize that, and you might have a crappy day, but you also might have a really the opportunities there, and then you go to bed and you wake up and it's a new day.
Mm,
You don't have to bring all that stuff with you.
it's a
So
great
I think that's probably one of the bigger things that I have. I mean, I think that in success you have to pay all your bills. You have to make sure you can pay them. You have to pay your people.
yeah.
I think that I'm only as good as like the weakest link, as they say,
Yeah.
and I think our links are pretty strong. And I make sure that I was a contractor at one time. The cabinet maker. A lot of people didn't pay me, and I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So I pay guys. If I have to borrow money to pay people, I pay them. That's if someone does a lousy job and I'm getting rid of them, I pay them for their work and I don't hire them again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm a pushover in a sense with that, but it's important that people know that you have integrity with what you're doing.
I was gonna say that you're speaking to integrity, living a life
Mhm.
of gratitude and full of integrity. Those are two great traits, and that anybody can absorb and apply. What would you tell yourself, Scott, starting out? So someone your age, but starting out in the business, you mentioned there were some hard times. You were doing cabinet making, you weren't always getting paid. Maybe you had the pressure of your dad, having success. What would you tell your younger self right now?
um there, there's a lesson in everything. It's like I essentially I failed at cabinet making, but that was a great lesson. And I felt pretty bad for a while. I also had kind of a crappy marriage, and Now, I mean, I learned so much from failure. It's really failure is just a lesson. It's not really failing.
Yeah.
And I think I probably wouldn't have been uh, as judgmental on myself if I would have realized, hey, you know what? That's just a lesson. Just move on. You know, it's going to be hard, but you'll get through it. You know, and it does build character, and it makes you work a little harder or become a little more aware of the things that you need to do. But again, gratitude and integrity do get you through that.
Yeah.
Hard work's there too.
Yeah. Going forward, where do you see Zukin? Do you see you staying in Westchester? You're also serving some other areas too, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're really thrilled that we were able to build the hotel, and that's like such a great. I wish Dad were here to see that to fruition, and we're super excited about that operating. It's great. We have a great group of people that we're working with it, and a great flag, Hotel Indigo. So that's just fabulous. So, I always keep my eye on Westchester. What's going on? That's our hometown. My brother has buildings in Philadelphia. Um, we have a cool property in the Cayman Islands too. That was something that Dad did too. But our future right now, we're doing a lot of work in Saranac Lake, New York.
Huh.
We saw a lot of opportunity there. It's you have the snow in the background of your picture there, so um, it's right outside of Lake Placid, and we bought an old sanatorium. It was Trudeau Sanatorium, and it was a hospital for healing for tuberculosis.
Oh, wow.
So at the time, prior to antibiotics, people would go and breathe fresh air to heal themselves.
Oh,
And
wow.
this and so there was a hospital built up there. People would go from the cities, and
Hmm.
essentially, I think they got out of the cities. Sometimes they would feel better, probably because they're out of the pollution
Yeah.
and relaxed a little bit more. Um, and once antibiotics got uh, uh, invented and used, the hospital was no longer needed. To this day, though, the Trudeau Institute still does pulmonary research and helps people throughout the world. So we're in the process of taking that property and building a bunch of apartments up there. There's a
Oh.
need for housing, and it's sort of what we do. So it's a historic renovation up there, and a little far, but it's a great place to go. So
So you're in New
we're
York, Philadelphia, Westchester, anywhere else?
that's Kennett Square.
Kennett too.
We have some stuff in Kennett Square.
Okay.
We have just residential in Kennett Square, and that's a great town as well.
And what are the lines of businesses that you guys provide? I saw there was listings on your website, but
Yeah, so we also help people to represent buyers and sellers in the real estate as well.
okay.
Yeah.
So you do property management, you do buying and selling, and then you own some properties too that you're managing.
Yes. Yeah, we manage. Well, most of our business is managing our own properties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever envision being in property management for other companies that do real
We
estate?
we do a little bit of third party management.
Yeah,
I usually do it for friends. I don't see that as a big part of the business,
yeah,
but it's something that we're happy to do if it's close by and it's something that fits into our stuff. You're gonna have to be the right type of landlord. We're not gonna take someone who doesn't care about their properties and their
right.
people. That goes with our purpose.
What excites you most about the business?
What excites me most about the business? Wow. It's funny. I love coming to Westchester, and I'm not the type of guy that sits down at the office. I can't sit in the office all day. So if I start, after 2 hours of being in the office in front of the computer, I like start to shake. And I literally have to get up and walk around town, and I'll just take a walk.
Yeah.
And now take a walk, and it was my son and I went out to lunch today, and he was kind of like, "Come on, let's go." I'm like saying hi to half the people in town, and it's just kind of fun. It's such a great walkable town, and with great people in it as well. So that I think just being and coming to Westchester, being here is one of the great things.
So is your son eventually going to be involved, or is he involved already?
He helps a little bit, but no, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna. I have a young daughter, 17, as well, and she maybe.
Okay.
And I have another son who's in college in Bennington, and he's not terribly. He's more of an engineer kind of guy.
Okay.
So we'll see.
It's always interesting. It's
Yeah.
neat to see the small businesses and the family businesses as they evolve over time. I work with my dad,
Hmm.
and we do financial advisory work, mainly retirement plans and health insurance for small companies. And
Hmm.
it was neat kind of growing up with him, just watching, working weekends, working evenings. Nothing like a family business, as you know.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have a lot of appreciation and gratitude, as you said, because people have an opportunity to rent anywhere. They have an opportunity to work with any financial advisor, and when they decide to use your buildings or they decide to work with us, it's truly something that you cherish and you appreciate. You don't take it for granted.
Yes, that's true.
So I love that, like reframing everything under a lens and a scope of gratitude. And if you're focusing more on gratitude, I also think it makes you more aware of around you, your surroundings. You can start seeing more of the pain that others are experiencing. It's not hard to be nice, but yet not everybody's always nice. And you think beyond
Right.
that, why is that? Well, you don't know what someone's carrying. You don't know what type of pain they're carrying physically, mentally. You don't know if there's something going on with their family, they've lost a job. And I think one of the things that we can all do, and it's not just give money, but it's being cognizant of the fact that everybody is going through some type of a challenge. We can extend grace and love and compassion. So,
We need to be kind to each other. I mean,
kind.
people need to go back and learn how to talk to each other again.
Bingo.
And at 9/11, when that happened,
I remember, yeah.
it was everybody was so nice to each other for like a week. If you had a cranky person at the grocery store, you were like, "Oh, let me give you a hug. Let me help you out there." And then during COVID, the worst times that we have as humans bring out the best of us.
Yep.
And I don't wish work bad times on anybody or anything, but I think it shows you like, people are struggling. You got to help each other out. And
100%.
I hate to say this, but there are times my wife and I talk a lot about how um, sometimes we just miss COVID. We're hanging out with the family. We would go. We were just we wanted every one of our restaurants and our retail places to survive. And every week, probably 3 to 4 times a week, we would take out food from one restaurant or another. And we were tipping them, tips like crazy and buying stuff that whether we wanted it or not, we're buying things. We just wanted to keep everybody understanding that we're there for them. And we saw that in this community. And that's what makes Westchester fabulous.
Yep.
They're a really, really great community.
Goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, yeah, people say they don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. That old saying is so true.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true. You don't know what, someone who's mad, angry, whatever it is, or nasty to you, you don't realize what just happened. And it's something I coach my team on is that sometimes we'll have a very angry tenant or a
Yep.
parent of a tenant, it might be a college student, and they're really, really upset. And I'm like, there's something behind this, guys.
Correct.
They're not upset that the light bulb's out in the hallway. They're upset because something else has happened. And just go fix it and, smile at them and be as kind as you can. And that of course goes a long way. I don't know that we ever get a thank you for that, but somewhere you put it out in the world, it comes back to you.
Well, thank you. There you go. Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish more people would take that approach because, like you said, extending that grace, I use the word grace, but extending that level of
Hmm.
compassion, gentleness, I think is what we need more of. Like you said, being kind and nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I hope that's what we'll accomplish. This event coming up is going to be certainly promoting the community coming together to help others, to raise awareness, to provide hope. That's what the cook-off is supposed to be. It's supposed to provide
yeah.
awareness for food insecurity and hunger, but beyond that, it's supposed to be a platform so that we can come together and help each other because, we have much more that we have in common than separates us. And I think a lot of times things become tribalized and you wind up putting people into categories, and that's the worst thing you can do. We all are human
Absolutely.
beings. We all have the same needs. We all have the same challenges, and it shouldn't be this divisive, you're this and I'm that. We're all one. We
Right,
just need to work
right,
together.
right. We can talk, we can disagree, but we can
Yes.
still, love
And
each
it's
other.
healthy,
Okay.
Scott.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
good to have differences of opinions.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you probably have seen this because you've been in business now successfully for many years. It's like the more you learn, the more you realize there's a lot I don't know. And
Right.
it's like every day
Right.
becomes more and more of that.
Yeah.
It's not that you're becoming like less intelligent, it's just that you're being more aware that
Right.
the nuances in every situation or dilemma, there's just so many ways to look at it. It's not that it makes you not sure of yourself, but it makes you just reassess and recalibrate. Huh, maybe I could have approached that differently. There's certainly more than one way to do that, and at least that's what
Right.
I've kind of
Yeah.
experienced.
I just saw a speech by Warren Buffett. He's
Yeah,
91 years old, I believe.
amazing.
And he part of the speech was like what you need to do with yourself after 60. And it was sort of like, you won at the game, so don't be extremely risky with with your health, with all this. But one of the big things was keep your mind active.
I love it.
And he's like, he reads, he's always learning. He's like, I don't know everything. Like,
Yeah,
don't think you know everything. When you stop your brain from working, your brain stops working. Keep it going. Keep it active as long as you can through your life. And he's 91, learning new things, learning new traits, new things to do, new hobbies, all
yeah.
that stuff.
What are some of your hobbies, Scott?
Well, I uh, just started in the last few years raising bees, so that's
Really?
been fun. Yeah, I
Okay.
like that. It's funny. My wife, what's it, 5 years ago, she's like, "Oh, we need to buy this house," and I'm like, "I'm not leaving Westchester. I always lived in town, walking to work, no more than a mile from work. Now, I live in Thornbury. It's a 10-minute commute. It's not that far." But and she convinced me to move out there. But we have a little bit of land, and we're like, let's raise bees. And I started. She did the gardening. She's now in school for acupuncture, so she's going
Wow,
to be a doctor of acupuncture. Um,
that's cool.
and so I started taking over the garden, doing that. I work a little bit on cars. I mean, I still do woodworking. I bought a Mercedes diesel that I play with, and you might see me driving around in a little yellow stinky diesel car in town, and I love it. It's fun. It's a fun old car.
Old carts are cool, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, they really are. You
I,
know,
I,
but go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I grew up driving. I still do a stick shift. I have a Corolla stick shift.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up on an old truck in the
Yep.
late 80s. It was like the thing was like a tank, and I had
Right.
to push the clutch down so hard. But I've always liked old cars. I think there's something nostalgic about them. And
Yeah, yeah. And I love the connection that I'm having with my daughter, Rose, about she's loving, working on the cars. We're going to be working on a car this weekend,
that's awesome.
and so I'm excited about that with her, and that's going to be fun. And so there's that. I said the woodworking,
Yeah.
antiques a little bit. You know, uh, I've been playing around with one of the funny things is I've acquired a lot of my dad's collections, and one of his collections is pocket watches.
Oh,
So
how about that?
I'm starting to get into that as well, and
That's cool.
yeah, yeah, all kinds of stuff. Art as well. I'm always looking at art, different artists throughout the world.
Do you draw?
Um, I paint in an abstract way,
Okay,
but
that's
I
cool.
enjoy it. I actually I didn't tell you this. I went to art school. That's how I got into cabinet making. I mean, it was the only thing I wanted to do.
Makes sense.
My parents made me go to college, so I was like, here's college. It's a 4-year program. I went to Philadelphia College of Art and learned all of that, and keeps you creative.
That's really cool. So when you're painting, do you listen to music? Is there like
Do
a
you know?
process you do to get your creative
It's
juices
it's
flowing?
funny. You know what? I often don't listen to music. People are like, wow. I find that I have to concentrate very, very deeply when I'm working with wood,
Got it.
or and it's sort of sculptural stuff that I do with the wood.
Okay.
It's not always as functional. And I mean, there's a point where you're just wrapping the project up and you know what you're doing. At that point, I'll put music on or
Yeah.
stuff like that, and you know, um, but in general, like the beginning creative process to me is not as engineered. You know, as my son Mark, who's very engineered, and when he does some projects, it's drawn out to the millimeter, and I'm like, just cut it. Go, let's start cutting and making something. Because I start building, and then I kind of design as I go.
Yep.
And the same with painting. So to me, like the music's in my head, which makes me crazy too. But that's
That's
a whole other thing.
that's wild.
Yeah,
He's like measure twice, three times, four times, then cut. You're like, just cut
yeah.
it. We'll figure it out.
Got it. We'll figure it out. Yep, yep,
That's so funny.
yeah.
So, what recommendations do you have for you said you like to look at art? What museums do you recommend for people that like art?
Um, I love the Museum of Modern Art in New York. My favorite
Oh
museum
yeah.
is the Tate Modern in London.
Okay.
Always has amazing shows there. So just look that up, and it's unbelievable. It's a really I've seen some. I've had the opportunity, been there 3 times, and every time I was
You
blown away.
loved it.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
in Chester County that you recommend that might be a little more?
The Brandywine Museum is awesome.
Yeah,
That's the Historical Society. That's Chester County History Center. Excuse me. That's what they call it now.
they
That's
changed their
got
name. Yeah.
amazing. They have amazing collections of stuff as well. Yeah.
That interesting. That's how I got started doing the food work for the hungry. So I was volunteering at a event. They had a breakfast with Santa, and I
Okay.
was serving eggs for the kids.
Hmm.
And I asked the caterer at the end of the event if he would donate some food that I could serve with my family to a local shelter. And he said yes. And that was in 2007. So I was 19 at the time. I was in college. And that's where the whole idea of feeding people came. So I like to say that it was birthed out of a historical place, the Historical Society or
Yeah.
Historical Center, they call it now, whatever.
Nice. Nice.
But it's neat that there's that Westchester connection. That is an awesome place. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
it is. It is. And honestly, walk around town and
Yeah.
just look at some of the buildings
Yeah.
and look at the doors and look at the windows and the construction of it and the details that you'll see in the stone and the brick and all that kind of stuff is really there's a museum right there.
Totally.
Yeah.
You look at where High and Market meet on the
Hmm.
corner, and they have the historical courthouse steps, and
Right.
we have some of our bands playing there for the event. And you see the old buildings now. It's Chase and Truist Bank, and there's a steakhouse there, and
Right.
they don't make buildings like that anymore.
They do not. Nope. They do not.
I always think of in the clock tower. I always think of Back to the Future. Save the clock tower. So, what else would you like to before we wrap up here? What else would you like to share? Any parting thoughts of wisdom or anything that you want
Well,
to share with the community?
I think that it's great at no matter what level anybody's at,
Yeah.
we can all help each other and
Amen.
we can all give and help. Because even when I was at my bottom, I was helping homeless people because it helped me to realize, you know, things can get worse. Things can always be better.
Yep.
Things can always be worse.
Yep.
So if you just keep that perspective, I think that's a real help in life for everyone, no matter where you are in life.
And you seem very fulfilled too, Scott. Like just
I
talking to you, you seem very fulfilled.
I'm a very yes, I am. I am. I feel again, I'm very blessed and I count my blessings.
Yep.
And I do feel very fulfilled with my life. Yes. Thank
It's
you.
it comes you're welcome. It comes across, and I think we're all aspiring for or striving to just be at peace. Sometimes our biggest enemy is ourself, self-doubt, anxiety, depression. It creeps in, and it's really encouraging to see, how much at peace you are. But I'm not surprised that it focuses on a few key themes, one of them being gratitude, another being the integrity with which you do your work, and then lastly, being aware of the suffering of others. When you incorporate that type of serve first mentality and appreciation, you're really pulling that into your heart and you have more to kind of give back. So I think it's a great template for others to follow because you didn't just make success the be all end all. You've made helping others the be all end all, and success became a byproduct of your desire to help.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, it came through very clearly in our time together, and I really just wanted to say thank you again, because you don't have to do anything in this world. I've learned this a long time ago. People choose to do something, and you choose to support our mission of feeding the hungry, and you choose to give back to this great community in Westchester. So I know that we're grateful, our organization, and I also know that the community is grateful for you being there for them, especially during times like COVID, when they were scared and some were shuttering. A lot of the businesses tried to adjust and accommodate, and luckily a lot of them made it through. But the community appreciates you, Scott, and the great work of Zukin.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, we will be seeing you soon. The Westchester Chili Cook-Off is coming up October 12th. It's going to be from 12 to 4, so you guys will have your right out front, your table out front of Zukin Realty. We look
Yes.
forward to having you there, Scott, and thank you for being on the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. For those that are listening, please make sure you subscribe, and we thank you for listening to this episode of the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. Thank you.
Take care.